shit from them basically for a year.
All right, we're live.
Um,
Woohoo!
not
Hey,
too
everybody.
much officially, anyway.
I don't even know if anyone's going to be here. I wouldn't show up. How many people are watching? It better stay a round number of 0. At least. I haven't done a show in 6 months. Who would show up? That's what I have to say about that. Alrighty, let's see if we can make it past the opening. Oh, I got to hit the record button.
Yeah, do that.
That might be important. All right, here we go. We're recording. I'm upstairs in my room. We have family over, and I don't have my 3-monitor setup like I normally do, so it's going to be intriguing.
Intriguing is good.
Hey, look, we got someone watching. Holy cow, there's people watching. Hey!
Wow.
All right, let's record this thing. I'm going to hit this here, and I'm going to scroll up to the top. Does someone want... Let's do the disclaimer at the end. Let's not forget that.
Who's reading it?
You are.
I don't even have it. You have it up here?
It's on the top of the show notes.
Okay, got it. Okay, you know what? Again, it's been 6 months.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's going to be a great show.
This should be great.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah. Flying Life Podcast.
Well, if somebody doesn't listen, we're going to do it at the end. Oh, man. How many dispatchers does it take to record a podcast?
We need more help. Here we go. Flying Life Podcast, episode 68, recorded June 17th, 2020. Welcome to the Flying Life Podcast, a podcast just about that flying, aviation, and our lives. I'm Dispatcher Mike, a dispatcher for a major airline based here in the United States. Also joining me on this show is Dispatcher Gregg. He's a dispatcher for a major airline, a different one, also based here in the United States. And Dispatcher Joe, who soon again will be a dispatcher for a major airline in Canada. Gentlemen, we found our microphones, we found time to get together, and here we are to record a podcast once again.
Huzzah.
You had to dust off the microphone.
Definitely had to dust off the microphone a little bit. Thankfully, it wasn't too bad for me to actually go through and remember how to set up the computer and all of that stuff, so... That part was pretty good and pretty easy. You know, Joe and I actually tried to record an episode back in May, and we got about this far before the digital leash of Acme Airlines call started ringing, and once that happened, well, I was on the computer, the work computer, until about 7:30 the next morning. So. It was a nice 12-hour unexpected overnight shift. Compliments of the United States NOTAM office. It was great. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was a fun night.
It was fun to Joe. He hung around for about 45 minutes and he said, "I got better things to do. This ain't gonna end anytime soon," and it really didn't.
So sorry I bailed out on you guys.
Well, you didn't really miss much.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
In this episode, we're kind of go around the horn and try to figure out what we've been up to for the last 6 months since we produced a podcast on Podcast Land, and then from there we'll go through some news, and if there's any time left, Joe's going to open up the magic book, and we'll talk about something from inside of that book that he's showing right there. The 50 great traits to become a dispatcher or something like that?
50 skills that make your life easier as a flight dispatcher, plus real interview tips.
Sarcasm.
It's quite the title.
Sarcasm and thick skin.
Yeah, pretty much.
Some things you have to be a dispatcher. All right, who wants to start?
I'll go first.
Mike or Joe.
Okay, I'll start. That's fine. Let's get it out of the way.
Seniority.
Over to you guys.
Seniority. So I think this one we'd start with Junior Manning. No, I'll start. Since we last recorded, life has been a little bit of a tailspin in my house and everything, and trying to figure out what it's like to be a dad with kids and getting everything done, coming out of the pandemic, and really understanding my new role at work. That pretty much, we went from a department of, I'd say 5, and it's really down to about 3 of us that work on the technology stuff. So I'm the product owner of a few computer systems now that are all mission critical. Basically, they have to work or we don't go type systems, which is it's a great challenge. It's a really fun challenge. Talking about flight planning system, the interaction with our nav database, the U.S. Our NOTAM system, and how Acme completely ingests NOTAMs from different sources around the world and brings it all together and all that. So that's kind of been kicking my butt a little bit for the last 6 months. And then I got diagnosed with a disqualifying medical condition, which took away my FAA medical. And I've been kind of working really hard to try to get that back, because dude likes to fly, and I haven't been able to fly an airplane for almost a year now. So aviation kind of was kicked away from me, and I didn't really feel like talking about it. So, yeah, that's what I've been up to. Greg?
Am I there? Okay, sorry. It was froze up there for a second. So last 6 months, geez. Well, I've been working a lot, which is a good thing. I think the last time we talked, I was temporarily employed as a dispatcher, at least through March. And then our friends in the federal government came back and said, "Oh, we'll give the airlines some more money, so we'll kick the can down the road till September." And that was great. And since then, I've been actually working. I think this is my first stretch of 4 days off I've had since I've came back to work in January. So I've been picking up trades and extra shifts just to kind of keep things a flow of money coming in and all that. And I was just recently told that, hey, we're safe now. We're no more furloughs come the fall. So it's a nice little relief of stress there. And yeah, I mean, that's really all I've been doing. I'm now going to be off for about 2 weeks. I'm just going to spend some time with the family. My daughter is going to be going to college in the fall, so we're doing some road trips to do some college visits over the next couple weeks. So that's going to keep me busy, and hopefully, just have a nice peaceful summer around here. So that's kind of where things have been with me, just keeping myself out of trouble and busy working.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great thing. I'm glad. That's another great thing too, is our industry is actually off of life support, and airplanes are back to being full, and we're actually carrying people, which means airlines actually might be making money again, which
Yeah,
is the
I
point
saw
point of a
TSA numbers
business.
were saw TSA numbers a couple of days last week were back at 2019 levels.
Yes,
Yeah,
over 2.5 million or something.
Yeah, yeah. And then and then 2019 was 2.6. So
Yeah, we're right there.
we're back up there. Yeah.
And the reroutes are out there, so things are getting back to normal. When there's reroutes every day, it's it's a good sign.
I'm an aviation professional, so I will bite my tongue on that. But I have my my own
Canchica's
my
back.
Florida Northeast 3, aka avoid Washington Center.
Yeah, the famous M&M route.
Yeah, I mean it's really good. It's really good to see. Um, but like I said, these are all great problems to have, and I'm glad we have them.
Totally.
Joe, what about you? Anything earth shattering?
Well, I got my EMR training. I was going to write the provincial exam to get certified as a bottom level paramedic, but then they said they don't count the military course, so they won't take me. So that was one thing. I've started work on a new book. Other than that, just going to work every day and making sure that healthcare in the military still happens as best I can.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. Um, that's a problem we have here in the United States too, where military credit, military experience, once you get out of the military, it's almost worth nothing, and it's really absolutely truly an absolute shame that I had some friends come out of the military and they had to go to school to become a paramedic. Well, dude, I was a combat medic in Afghanistan. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing, but they had to go to school. I mean, it's absolutely a shame on the way that military experience doesn't have a direct one-to-one transfer in everything.
Yeah.
You,
So
you
what's the
mentioned that you're writing a new book. What are you able to share any of that or what that's about
It's
or
it's
details?
it's a yeah, it's another work of fiction, and it's not a romance. So it's about a bunch of friends who are in a band and they suddenly become famous,
Oh,
unexpected,
cool.
and then how they deal with that and what happens to them after. So that's the idea anyway. We'll see what happens. I'm only a couple thousand words in, so sure it'll
couple
change.
of couple of thousand words in, couple of
Yeah,
10,000 to go?
yeah. Though that being said, my book that I've got published is free on Amazon for this week, so you still got a couple of days to go get it if you want.
All right, refresh our memories on the name of the book.
It's called Mars Hill, and you can find out more on Facebook at facebook.com/sixcatspress.
I remembered that part. I knew it was something about cats and press.
Yeah.
We'll have to go. We'll put a link in the show notes to that as well. Anything else? Anything exciting?
Getting a catio built in front of my house for the cats.
A catio?
Yeah. So they'll be able to climb out the basement window and up the well and be out in the front garden kind of area, and enclosed place. Like where I live right now, I'm about 500 meters or so from farmland. So we get coyotes in the neighborhood all the time. So you don't want to. Well, it's illegal to let your cats out, where I live, but you don't want to either because they'll get taken by the coyotes, especially during mating season.
Coyotes got to eat, man.
Yeah, coyotes can eat the 5 million rabbits that are out there.
Well,
Wow.
that's good.
How's the border situation going in Canada? Things opening up?
Well, they might be opening up if you're fully vaccinated, but they haven't really formally done it yet. So as of now, the border's still closed.
Is life in general back to normal?
No,
No.
no, we still have to wear a mask if you're going out shopping and all that stuff. And honestly, I think that might be a kind of thing that sticks around here for a while. Just out of cautious, like we've got the Delta variant in our province, so we just lost a couple of people who died from it who were fully vaccinated. So if that really takes hold, we could be back into restrictions again.
Jeez.
That's horrible.
Yeah, we've only got 69% of the population with one dose, so vaccination rates are declining, unfortunately, in terms of uptake.
Gotcha. Are people allowed to go get their second doses? Like, can you schedule those, or is it still one
No, you
until
can now.
everyone has one?
No, you can. We were just out earlier at the pharmacy, and I was trying to get my wife scheduled. They're going to call her, and they'll try to slot her in next week for her second dose. I got mine through the military, so I'm fully done.
Nice. Yeah, I got mine through Acme back in March and April. So all's good in this neighborhood. My son just got his second dose. So anyone who's vaccine eligible in this household has it.
Yeah, they're not doing under 12s yet, at least where I live.
Yeah, same thing. I think 13 is the cutoff. Maybe it's 12. No, it's
12 here. 12.
Yeah, it's 12 for the Pfizer.
My daughter just got hers, and she was really sick the next day. But we're all vaccinated.
Was it the first dose or second?
It was the second on the Pfizer.
Yeah, so second dose can kick your. If you get really sick on the first dose, that means you probably had COVID before. So we've discovered. I'm just going to plug another podcast. It's called This Week in Virology, and every Saturday they have a clinical update about COVID in plain language, so anyone can understand it. So I'd highly recommend checking that out. It's been my source of information as I'm, briefing the CO and stuff on things that are happening with COVID. So.
No, that's good. Yeah, life's practically normal, back to normal here. Down here in Georgia, where we opened up everything. Was it last June, July? Since then, there's no mask restrictions. There's no nothing. Everything's back free and open, and no big deal. And I think our numbers are incredibly low, so everything's good here, which is what we like to see.
Yeah, we're about the same here in Northern Illinois. Things are back to, or in Illinois in general. I mean, we're back to normal in terms of restrictions, and you can go out and like nothing ever happened here. So,
yeah.
Alrighty.
Well, that should wrap up what we've been doing for the last 6 months. Oh, alrighty. Let's. We have a pretty lengthy news folder, so let's go ahead and move on with the news. Alrighty, the first story I found on the Aviation AIN, AIN online, and also the AOPA. I like both of the articles, but Captain Chelsea B. Sullenberger, a.k.a. Sully, has been nominated to be the United States ambassador to ICAO, which was the International Civil Aviation Organization. So, a little bit about Sonny. Obviously, he might be a little bit famous for a certain flight between LaGuardia and Charlotte, something about US Air 1549, as him and his first officer, Jeff Skiles, got a dual engine failure after hitting a flock of geese, and ended up putting their A320 into the Hudson River. And it's pretty obviously it's pretty good, but since then, Sully has been a very vocal advocate for the aviation in general. Very vocal against privatization, has worked and been on numerous committees with NASA and working with ALPA and stuff like that. So really good, really good. Not jumping down the political bandwagon, but really good to see someone who is A's got a face, but B also had a voice for aviation and a voice for aviation that most people here I think would agree with most of his views on it as well. So I feel this is a good thing for not only for just the United States, but his expertise as well. Going on to the board with ICAO is a good thing.
You couldn't pick a better person, right? I mean, he obviously has the knowledge, and he's been through, a pretty traumatic experience with what happened, and so yeah, I mean, I think this is a good pick. Someone who could definitely speak aviation pretty well to the industry.
Especially as we're getting into the area and to the timeline when some of the newer technologies coming out that we'll be talking about a little bit further down. It'd be nice to have someone with his safety and pilot and operational focus on the
Yes.
board, guiding that rulemaking. Hopefully,
Yeah, that'd be a good hope. I mean, especially with the other news articles that we have, it'd be nice to have a strong voice of experience and a strong voice of you know expertise to you know help guide the international rules of flying.
Mhm.
All right, who wants to take the next one? And I put the AOPA one in there as well because he doesn't automatically get it. He has to be confirmed by the United States Senate. So let's see what happens there. Obviously, it's a long road to get confirmed in the Senate. So
Yeah.
I can take the next one, I guess.
yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Hang on a second. I'm loading it here. We got CX. What is that? Cathay Pacific?
Cathay Pacific.
Pacific. Yep. Is working with Airbus to introduce reduced crew long haul flights with a co-pilot in the cockpit much of the time. Yeah, right. The program known within Airbus as Project Connect aims to certify A350s for single pilot operations during high altitude cruise starting in 2025, which is what, in just a short 3.5 years on Cathay Pacific. It says here, the highest hurdle remains on the path to international acceptance. Once cleared, longer flights would become possible with a pair of pilots alternating respirators instead of the 3 or 4 currently needed to maintain at least 2 in the cockpit. And then it goes on to say that it's promises savings for the airlines and blah, blah, blah. How many times technology is obviously evolving, and all these companies, they want to try to find ways to reduce pilots in the cockpit. But ultimately, it's a long shot. I don't see that happening by 2025. I don't see it happening in the next 10 years as much as these industries are pushing for single pilot, or I guess in this case, it's reduced number of in the cockpit. But I don't know. What do you think?
I still think it's a single pilot operation. It doesn't matter if it's takeoff, doesn't matter if it's landing or cruise, whatever. You're still got one person up there. The article did say there would be enhanced monitoring of the sole operator of the controls that are still in there. It read in there about being able to certify that the one pilot doesn't become incapacitated on the flight deck, and if I was just going to sound bad, but if he doesn't hit a certain button every X amount of times, then what's going to happen to then the other guy or gal that's sleeping in the back gets notified. Another thing in here that I thought was interesting, that Airbus has designed the 350 autopilot upgrade, which would do almost an automatic emergency descent. And when I read that, I thought of the Garmin autopilot system, at least on the Cirrus jet, and I think it's a Pilatus, one of their high-end single-engine airplanes that has an emergency button in it where it will then fly to squawk 7700 and then squawk on a frequency and on guard that there's an emergency, and then go actually land the airplane on a runway somewhere. They just got the Collier Trophy for that. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think the technology is definitely there. I think it's going to be something that really is going to take public time, and it's going to have to get past the pilot unions.
Well, that was
yeah,
one of the biggest things. I mean, you got ALPA, you got, I don't know what the international ones are, but ALPA is one of the biggest unions here. To get anything past them regarding reduced staffing, it's just
yeah, but
not going to
those
happen.
unions were there when the flight engineers went away, navigators before
That's
that.
true. That's true.
So never say never. I think that it'll be a slower progression. Now, the one thing I found really interesting was that the airplane would be able to basically manage itself for 15 minutes, even with any emergency. So, engine blows up, the plane handles it by itself for 15 minutes. Because one of the things you have to remember, right, is if Buddy's sleeping down the back and he gets the ding to wake up, it's going to take him 15 or so minutes to get fully alert and ready to go, right? So that's why anytime you have those rest programs, they have that built in. You have to wait X long between waking up and sitting back down at the controls to become alert again. So, that's the A350 is an incredible machine, and it can already do automated takeoffs, landings. They're working on auto taxiing. So, I think we're going to see this on the freighter first if they end up launching that. Like that's I could see it starting in the freight side and then eventually moving over to passengers after a decade or so.
Yeah, no, there's
there's a ton of freighter planes flying around right now, single pilot, like caravans and things, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Smaller caravans and, Part 135 and, all of that is, single pilot aircraft as well. I think it's when you get to the airliner aspect of it, and for me, it really is going to have to come down to how do you monitor the pilot that it's up there and ensure that, he doesn't have a heart attack and all that. I know we've had this discussion on the podcast many times. In right after they had a huge push, there was a couple of pilot incapacitation diversions that went out. So it's like, okay, how do you really go through, and what do you really? There's got to be some sort of monitoring, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and
all you got to do is look to autopilots on cars. That's how they're going to do it. The autopilots on cars have proven they are eye movement. They can tell where you're looking accurately. They can tell if you're paying attention. So, I mean, we've already got that technology in cars. There's nothing to say they won't bring it into the flight deck. Now, that being said, that means there's cameras in the flight deck, which is an NTSB wish list item. So, I mean, I know that's another whole fight with the pilot unions right now, but like the technology for that exists. They're using it in cars. They just have to adapt it and certify it for airplanes. Again, I'm not saying this is a good idea. This is just how they would do it.
No, absolutely. I think you're right, Greg. What did you have to think?
Oh, no, I was going to say, you think about this. What is the dispatch role if this should happen? Like, is the dispatcher going to be able to monitor the systems if captain becomes incapacitated? Is he able to notify the other crew members that are on board? Is the dispatcher going to be remotely flying the airplane if something happens? There's a lot of questions with just the dispatch role in these type of situations.
And it's interesting that they're piling it somewhere where there's no dispatchers.
And that's true.
So, Yeah, like
But
I
if it,
wouldn't be surprised if dispatch would get an alert and tell the plane to do that Garmin auto land emergency landing thing eventually. Or if that could be part of the monitoring, or
yeah,
have a pilot ultimately who's sitting in that chair overseeing all those flights to take over remotely, in addition
you
to
know,
the dispatcher.
I truly believe the dispatch role is going to, over the next 10 years, really evolve where you're going to have more hands-on in aeronautics and being able to fly airplanes, so that if situations like this happen, you may have to use your aviation flying background to help support the airplane that's in the air.
And there's also been talk about, rotating. 1 month you're on the desk in the office, the next month you're the dude in the airplane, and keeping currency that way.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be I'd be all for that, but I have a pilot certificate. I think that would be great.
That would
yeah,
be a huge upfront cost to airlines to train all their dispatchers. Now, the cool thing is, and we've talked at Acme Canada about this before, about if they were to set up a cadet program, if they would offer it to dispatchers first. What they've shown, what they've looked at is because Acme Canada has programs, and what they say is when they take people straight out of flight school, like a flight instructor, versus somebody who's been a dispatcher before. Well, that dispatcher knows CRM. They know how airlines operate. So it's less of a leap for them to go from I'm the flight instructor in my 172 to, and the dispatcher could have 172 time as well, but they know how the airline already operates and, all of that sort of stuff. So, I mean, dispatchers could be interesting. I'd be interested in it for sure. Now that being said, if you're also a cruise relief pilot, well then how do you maintain currency on all the fleet types you dispatch? So if Acme Canada had an A350, 787, A320, C series, what have you, okay, how can I dispatch and be qualified on all of them if I'm also flying all of them? Like that may
yeah.
not work, right?
Yeah,
It would
no,
be
that
a training logistical nightmare, time-wise, financially. But hey, if
Imagine
Acme North wants to pay for me to get my pilot's license, hey, I'd be up for that too.
Well, imagine having to train all of those pilots to be good dispatchers,
Well, yeah.
because it's a very different skill set. We may have common touch points, but it's very different.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly interesting, and we'll see how it goes from there, and and all of that. Again, I think the big takeaway that I also got this was in the article where Cathay said, "Hey, we're just here for the study. We didn't sign on to be the launch customer of this thing yet. We're just here to help be make sure it's okay and help with the technology and moving forward." So, you know, it's all good. All right, Joe, you want to take the next one?
Totally. Let me flip back over to this. Okay, so uh, General Electric and Safran, is an engine manufacturer, have touted their new open rotor design as a future for sustainable aviation. Now, basically, an open rotor design is basically a glorified turboprop. I mean, let's be honest. If you look at the picture of it, it looks like it's turboprop that has wonky fan blades. So I do know there's been a lot of research done on these open rotors and if they could replace jets, because they are apparently, with the shapes of those blades, you're getting, like the Q400, you're getting closer to jet speed, so you're even that much further. And again, a huge reduction in fuel burn. So I think if they could get that technology working to the point where you actually can reliably fly at jet speed and jet altitudes, because that's the other big problem, right, with turboprops, you're stuck down in the weather. So if they can get that working jet speeds, jet altitudes, with that reduced fuel burn, I think that'd be pretty good. Now, I think there's a couple things you're going to have to overcome. One of them is the noise, and the other one is passenger hesitancy. And not so much up here, but I know down in the U.S., nobody wants to fly on a propeller plane. So yeah, I can't read more details because the Seattle Times is blocking me.
The Seattle Times is blocking you. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you hit all the high points that I got out of it. They said the engine will reduce fuel burn by at least 20%, which is, I mean, can you imagine a 20% fuel reduction, even off the current engine airplanes, but even now off the Neos? Can you imagine a 20% fuel reduction off the Neos? Now you're talking about an engine that incredibly just sips fuel. Some of the things that I thought of that were kind of unique on it were the a like you said, it looks like a glorified turboprop. B, the noise level on it, you would have to overcome that noise level somehow. And C, my final thought was, what do you do now? There's no way to contain a blade failure. A lot of the most recent U.S. aviation incidents have dealt with uncontained engine failures, be it Southwest's 737 near the Panhandle, be it United's 777 that took off from Denver and let the engine cowl go all over the place. I mean, things like that where you'd have to have a greater scrutiny on the fan blades, in my opinion, so you don't lose the blade and it goes through the cabin.
Yeah, you'd be looking at bringing back that reinforcement from the turboprop area, which again would also add weight to your airframe. Because not only is it a prop blade, but it's also ice, right? Like ice protection on a propeller blade is a tricky thing to do, and those blades will shed ice. You know, I don't know if you guys have ever flown a turboprop in icing, but you'll hear that bang every once in a while, the prop shedding some ice
I've heard.
against the side of the fuselage. So yeah, so that's going to be another thing that could potentially have to add weight and complexity to that engine for that anti-icing system.
And we were talking about this at work, and I forgot about this until we just started talking about it. This is from the Av Geekery, which I'll try to find and put in the show notes. Props for McDonnell's Douglas, the unducted fan projects that never took off. But here's an MD80 demo with an Pratt & Whitney Allison engine on it as basically pusher props. And I'll do the thing like this, and you can see this was back in the late 70s, early 80s where they thought of this idea. Again, there will be a link in the show notes to this article. I'll throw it in there. They went through and tried to do this, but this never went anywhere because the price of oil came back down, and it was cheaper just to use the good old JT8Ds. It'd be interesting to see for me where this goes. The Seattle Times article that's in the show notes had a couple of interesting pictures at the top that you could scroll through and have a couple of concept looking airplanes with these big old fans sitting on them. Let me see this. I think I can.
I'm like with Joe. I can't pull up the article. It says Seattle Times, and
wonder how I'm so special then.
I don't know.
No.
I see the first paragraph, and then it kind of blocks the rest. So.
Let me do this here. Boom, boom. Share. And there you go. Now you guys should be able to see the...
there's the pictures. Okay.
See the pictures.
They remind me of that Piaggio prop plane with the pusher props.
Yeah, it's a very interesting design and very interesting look. I mean, you're putting a big old unducted fan basically right in the middle of the
it looks like it's counter rotating as well to get rid of that yaw moment. Like there's two sets of fan blades on it.
Yeah, there are
on each engine.
Let me go back to here. I'm showing this one, and you can see this photo there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It has a different concept drawing of the
I wonder if those back ones are spinning or if they're just feather, if they're just able to control the angle on them.
Yeah, it
doesn't look like anything spins on that.
Yeah, it'd be intriguing to see how and what happens with this whole thing. Let's see here. I think these other two pictures are just the pictures of the CEOs
Of the dudes.
Nah.
of GE and Saffron. So these two companies have a joint venture. They make the CFM engines. They've been partners together for quite a long time. So it'll be intriguing to see where this goes, what happens, and if any engine manufacturers out there have the ability to actually design an airplane with this. So, again, what's old is new, and maybe with some new technology and some new computer modeling, it might actually be something that happens. All right, I guess I'll take the next one.
Boom.
Boom.
You want to take that, or you want? Okay, go.
I'll take it.
Okay. Boom.
United Airlines has got to open this up here. Adding supersonic speeds with a new agreement to buy aircraft from Boom Supersonic. This happened on June 3rd. United Airlines announced a commercial agreement with the Denver-based aerospace company Boom Supersonic to add its aircraft to its global fleet. United, under the terms, agreed to purchase 15 of their Overture airliners, and I believe they have options for an additional 35 as well. The Overture aircraft is slated to roll out in 2025 and then fly in 2026 for an entry into service by 2029. United and Boom will also work together to accelerate the production of greater supplies. I looking a little bit more about the airplane too, because there were some jokes around social media that this is a really fancy regional jet, and figuring out how would it fit in the scope clause and things like that. But the aircraft itself has a designed capacity of 65 to 88, 205 feet long, cruising at 60,000 feet with a speed of Mach 1.7. And for a little bit of what does 1.7 mean, they had some numbers back here on this other page. Tokyo to Seattle, 4 hours. Paris, Montreal, 3:45. And LA, Sydney in 8.5. So now Tokyo, Seattle is about 8.5 hours. Paris, Montreal is about 7:15. The big one, New York to London, 3:30 opposed to 6.5. And see if there's anything. Singapore, Dubai in 4 hours. And if you notice, all of these city pairs that I'm saying, all of them are over water, because there's still the law here in the United States says you can't go supersonic over land. So
Yeah, well, that Montreal one is totally bogus because half the flight is overland from Montreal to Paris. Just a thought. And same thing with Sydney to LA. You're flying over islands for at least a good half of that.
yeah, but Sydney, LA, they're really small islands, and well, it's only the U.S. law, so
Yeah,
Not just the U.S. Yeah, so like, my concern with these things is that speed is. I mean, I assume they're smart engineers, but like for what I've understood with Concorde, if you're between that 1 to 2 Mach 1 to Mach 2 range, your drag's actually the highest because after you get that transonic area, there is really a lot of drag, a lot of fuel burn. That's why they had those burners on all the way up to 2. Because once you're 2, then the drag goes away. So it's interesting that they're flying in that higher drag zone for these instead of going just that little bit faster to get above it. And again, 15 planes, okay, where can you really operate that thing efficiently? New York to London, New York to Ireland, New York to maybe Lisbon. There's not that many other places, especially when you consider how much they're going to have to pay for these tickets, right? Like, where's going to support it? Like, it's the exact same business case problem with Concorde. Like, just doesn't seem to have closed that business case yet, unless they can develop the sonic boom less designs that some of those other supersonic companies were trying to do, and the NASA research is going into. Until you can get rid of that boom factor, boom, the aircraft.
But it's called boom.
I know the sonic boom, the boom aircraft likely will not be able to operate that much. Like that many routes. It'd be really nice to fly from New York to go in an hour and a half, but it's not going to happen. So
I can see maybe down south, if you do like South America routes out of the East Coast, possibly, or even, Florida up to, maybe Europe or something like that, where there's a lot of open water. But is there a market for that? And are people willing to pay the price point that, that the tickets would sell for, which we don't know how much they're going to sell for, but yeah, so there's a lot of question marks there. Where are they getting the demand for that?
Yeah.
And what kind of fuel? I mean, when you look at the price to operate the vehicle, the airplane, how much fuel is it going to take to operate?
Oh, come on. It says it's carbon neutral.
Well,
where did it find it? It found it on the Boom Overture page. Said it was a carbon neutral aircraft. And I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah, huh?
Yeah, carbon is net zero. I don't know how you get to net zero when you're still burning baby dinosaurs to go forward. That's just my thought.
Well, 2029 is 7.5 years away, so we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
We'll be talking about it on episode 200.
72. No, it's it's differently. Hillel in the chat room says the shape of the airplane is a lot different than Concorde was. So we'll see what happens. Again, it's news.
Can you put a big muffler on there so it doesn't go boom?
Try to bring it down to a sonic thump. That's what NASA's goal is on these things. Okay. Joe, you want to take the last one? No, there's two more.
Yeah, let me just swallow here.
Oh, drinking might be important.
Yeah, it's dinner time. Okay, so Southwest cancels due to technology problems. So apparently 2 days in a row last week, Southwest had a technical problem that snarled their operations, leading to hundreds of delays and cancels for their flights. They said that Southwest said that it was a system issue that created disruptions through its network. They said multiple systems had experienced connectivity issues. That's pretty much what they're saying. So there was a 2-hour halt on Monday, and then on Tuesday there was another big outage for them. So, yeah, interesting to find out from them what exactly it was. Was it their booking engine? Was it their flight planning system? Was it their ACARS? What caused that outage for that long? 2 days in a row.
From my understanding of reading the social meds, it's two separate events that caused the issue. One was just a connectivity issue, and then the second one had something to do with their weather provider. And as we know, as from it works and work and all that, you need to provide the pilot with an updated weather forecast prior to dispatch. And if your system to do that can't do that, well, then you can't go.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting that it's two different issues that happen to coincide in 2 different days, back to back.
Yeah. So this is the discrete news. Why were Southwest flights delayed Monday? Southwest flights were delayed and canceled on Monday due to a weather data outage, which appears to be different than the issues that suffered on Tuesday and Wednesday, according to the discrete news. Several flights were grounded because of the weather data problem, too. This says Southwest teams and the vendor worked to restore connectivity. We implemented a ground stop to protect the safety of our customers and crew.
It was really
Yeah.
3 days. 3 days that this occurred over then, right? Monday, Tuesday, and spilled over into Wednesday.
Greg, have you ever worked a major IT outage at your airline, or
Yes.
days during or after?
Yes, it's not pleasant, and they never get fixed quick enough.
There's always the adage of it's pretty easy to stop the motion of an airline, right? You just say, "Hey, we can't take off. No one goes anywhere. Ground stop. We're done. We can't fly until this is fixed." It's getting that back running because of the amount of logistics and crews and moving pieces that operate through the airline operations. Your pilots for flight 123 are actually sitting over in airport. Say they're in Tampa, the airplane's in Buffalo, New York, but the pilots are somewhere else.
Yep.
It's the moving thing of, okay, airplane goes here, pilots go here, flight attendants go here. They rarely match up. I would say at a good almost 90% of the time, you don't have a pilot, a flight attendant, and a airplane all following the same pattern or rotation. I mean, you will on a turn, hub to spoke and back, but the probability of them now going to the same city after they get back to the hub is very small in my experience.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And it's starting that machine back up and operating, where you'll have the residual delays and the residual cancels because you're missing one of the pieces of the puzzle. You need an airplane, a pilot, and a flight attendant to carry passengers and move. And I kind of just put this in here mainly to say, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. It sucks, and I do not wish this upon any airline, and I definitely do not envy our professional colleagues over there at Southwest putting the genie back in the bottle. It's not fun. It's not hard. And the last time we had to do it, I left work when the problem was starting. And when I went back to work 12 hours later, the problem was still there or just getting resolved. And I knew what I was driving into. I was driving into work to get my butt kicked, and it sucked. Plain and simple.
Yeah. So for us up in Canada, it's interesting. Like, yes, the IT issues and all that are still, like, I've worked them, I've chiefed them, but the recovery is a lot like recovering from a blizzard. Like, if a blizzard takes out one of our hubs, like Toronto, and everything's all out of place, the recovery it's the same sort of deal for us with those big blizzard erupts. So at least I guess maybe a bit of routine practice at it a couple of times all winter when that blizzard rolls through southern Ontario or Quebec or Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. So.
Yeah, it ain't fun.
All airlines at one point or another have had their fair share of IT issues. I know we have, and yeah, it's bad. When it's bad, it's bad, and it's not a flip a switch and things get back together.
Yeah. Well, when you think of all of the stuff that we have and all that has to run everything, like, it's a miracle that those IT guys, they must all be like PhD Einstein level geniuses. It's a miracle this happens once every couple of years. When you think of all of the pieces that have to fit together, the res system, the weather, the flight planning, flight watch, ACARs, NOTAMs, all of this stuff constantly, is in sync. Like, it's a miracle this even works at all. So, like, my hat's off to those IT guys at all the airlines for keeping this ball rolling. In addition, the corporate software they use have to run as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a reason why we have man, they touch anything with our servers that are running something. We're up with our IT colleagues monitoring their changes, and even some of the systems I operate. It's a vendor system that we go through and make the change. They share the screen to run the code, so everyone has visibility of what's going on, and it's just really amazing to sit and watch them run the code, knowing that okay, we're going to stop it now. It's like, do we really want to do this? you know,
Well, it's
Kind of
amazing
thing.
how often the FAA, the vendors, NAV Canada, somebody somewhere wants to run an update at 4:30 on a Friday, and
That doesn't
it's
fly
just
at that doesn't fly at
yeah.
Acme. All of our changes are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, and they're in the overnight hours.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the same sort of thing at Acme Canada. It's the most frustrating when it's the ones you can't control, like the NOTAM system or the weather system or AFTAN, something that is done by somebody else,
right,
and then you're waiting for
exactly.
them to resolve it. That's the worst.
Yeah, that talk about that node amount. That's the way we were in the node. Our system was up and running. We were fine. We were, everything that we had was still working the way it was supposed to. We just lost connection to the pipe that feeds our system, and it was rather important that we try to get it back. But it's you're helpless. We're sitting there helpless, and we couldn't really do anything about it. Alrighty, this last article is it's from a news source I usually don't go to. Not saying that it's bad, but it's from Al Jazeera because that's the only one that I could find that really had what I wanted to talk about, and that is unruly skies. Union chief highlights airline passenger misconduct. There have been over 2,500 incidents involving unruly airline passengers this year alone, and including 1,900 cases where passengers refuse to wear the mask, which is a federal law until sometime in September when that goes and expires. Man, we've seen this on every single airline. I'm not going to go into details of why they're talking about this, but I mean, every single airline has had their passenger misconduct issues skyrocket and go through the roof. It's almost like people forgot how to be out in the traveling public and, be kind and listen. It's definitely one of those, man, I wish I worked for a cargo company sometimes.
And Tanya, the last couple weeks, been working, and I don't think I've had one day where I haven't had some sort of incident on some flight where passengers are just, they're over the whole mask thing and they refuse to wear the mask, and then they take it out on the flight attendant, and before you know it, they're declaring a threat level, and you got to get police involved and all that kind of stuff. And it's not even just the masks lately too. It's been just stupid stuff that people are doing on the airplane, and it's becoming more of the norm that lately it seems like.
Yeah, it's definitely bad, and when it first got implemented, it was one thing, but come on, we're many, 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 many months into this, and I know at least at my airline, you have to check a box when you check in at the kiosk. You have to check a box that says, "Yes, I will wear my mask while in the airport and on a flight." In, come on, check the box. If you don't want to check the box, drive. Go Greyhound, Amtrak. But I'm pretty sure they have mask policies too because
You have
it's
to wear a
all
mask on any, right,
on
public
any
transportation.
any transportation. I mean,
Mhm.
it is what it is until the law changes, and the law currently isn't going to change for another 3 months. So, uh, either drive or sit down and put your mask on, and you know, eat that bag of
And
pretzels slower.
I'll tell you one thing: the airlines are doing, in general, a good job of enforcing the. If we're diverting an airplane because of an unruly passenger, they're not playing around. They're going after the passenger for financial loss due to the diversion.
And the
So,
FAA has finally put down the enforcement fines, and
yep,
almost every week or 2 weeks is another list of 4 or 5 people that are getting fined 30, 40, up to I think 50. I think 54,000 is the max
yep,
fine. And they're coming down, and it's almost to the point where I wish the news agencies would take the press release and link it to their original story they had when flight ABC diverted to blank because of blank. Oh, this person here? Hey, remember? That was this guy 2 months ago. You guys remember that story? Yeah, this is what he got. And really put that connection together for people. And I think that's really what's going to help things.
right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, people think it's a joke. Okay, I can do what I want, get away with what I want. And, oh, so I'm glad the FAA is finally doing what they got to do, and law enforcement is backing up the airlines and all that kind of stuff.
It's not all about you.
Right.
Shocking. Be kind to everybody. I do
It, it,
not envy our colleagues that work in customer facing positions.
and some airlines have gone to the extent now of not even serving alcohol on board domestic flights, just because they don't want to deal with getting passengers drunk.
Just one
Yeah,
more
it's crazy.
reason.
Yeah.
It's Southwest American have decided to do that, and come on, people.
And that's a revenue stream for them, right?
Yes,
For the most part. Yeah.
theoretically, you're
Theoretically,
paying, you're paying $7 to $9 for a cocktail on an airplane. I'm guessing it costs the airline a little bit less than that for the mini bottle.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, moral of that story: be kind
Behave.
to each other.
Behave.
Behave.
Yeah.
We're not a flying greyhound.
That's gonna wrap it up for the news. Published news stories. But there is an announcement that we would like to make, and that is we will be attending the greatest show in aviation again this year. It is going to happen, and dispatcher Gregg, myself, and co-owner of the airplane Dan will be making our way to Central Wisconsin the last week of July for EAA's AirVenture, and
Woohoo!
we hope to be giving you that same content we've gone in years past, going around, getting interviews, hanging out, and hopefully doing a podcast every day for the week. Recording in the evenings, editing that evening, and then publishing it early the next morning before we get to rinse and repeat and do it again. My current plan is to fly up in the airplane with Dan. Hopefully, I'll actually be able to touch the controls by then. But if not, I'm going anyway, and I'll sit there and be the world's best passenger, going to Oshkosh, and then we plan to get there hopefully on Saturday, and we will be there until Saturday the following week. So we plan to be there all week, probably leaving, my guess is Saturday morning, so we can make it home before too dark. But I'm very excited to be going back to Oshkosh, going back to AirVenture. Going to be a little bit different than in years past, I think. But I think it's going to be a huge crowd. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people there, and I am very much looking forward to it.
It's going to be a blast. Yeah, my plan is I'm driving down there probably early Monday morning, getting there at dark 100, and staying till at least Friday, maybe even Friday night, depending upon if I can find a place relatively cheap to stay. But yeah, so that's the plan for me, and hopefully the weather is not too hot, because I am not a fan of hot weather. So I need air conditioning.
it doesn't really get hot in central Wisconsin.
Oh, it gets hot. Trust me. You're just not used to it. That's cool for you.
Yeah, I mean it's cool for me. I mean, you know what? What's going to be mid 80s and sunny?
No, it's
Uh,
been over 90 the last week. Oh,
eh,
so
Yeah.
you know.
My plan is to look south and wave at the closed border.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe maybe next year.
Make your plans for next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll be cool. If anyone else is going to be out there, let us know. We'll come find you, and you can join the podcast with us when we're doing them.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be out there. I have a shiny new camera. I don't know. I have some ideas. I might try to live stream some of the arrivals on Sunday if I'm there on Saturday, which would be fun. It'd be fun to do. Another fun thing that I've been doing without podcasting is I've been live streaming my church's masses for I've been doing it since COVID started, but it's been a evolving thing. But now I have the equipment because I've been using all of my equipment to do it at church to live stream with a really good camera and all that. So it'd be kind of fun to get a decent internet signal and sit at one of the end of the runways and just watch people coming in and land. And maybe we'll kind of figure out a way to put some sort of banner up on the screen, something like this in a just like that, and judge the landings. Give them a landing system. Give them how accurate and close were they to the actual dot they were assigned to land on, and things like that. Anyway, I'm looking forward to being around airplanes. I'm looking forward to reconnecting with the people that we haven't seen for it'll be 2 years in July. So could be really looking forward to that. There's a group of social media people that I work with going through on Oshkosh, and we're all very excited for it. So we look forward to bringing that to you for those who can't be there. So
Like me.
yeah, there's always 2022.
Hey, maybe one of the Dubai Air Show or something.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
Have you been to Dubai before?
Nope.
Nope.
Oh, it's a great city. I did one of my jump seat rides to Dubai. That was fun. First time
Yeah, if the
I've ever been.
opportunity comes up, I'll totally do it.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever been on an airplane and watched the sun rise over the Atlantic, and was back in the jump seat later while the sun was setting as we were landing in Dubai. We spent the whole daylight hours on an airplane. It was a ton of fun. It's a great city. We spent a couple of days there with Naomi. Absolutely fun. We don't fly there currently. Hopefully we will again soon, but I'm glad I got there before that. So I'm gonna hit.
I mean, there's always
here.
Paris, the alternate year. So
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Why don't you grab out a book, hit a magic page, while I hit this button right here. All right, Joe's gonna open up his magic feedback, not feedback book. I read feedback on the screen, and that's where I got that from. Magic 50 dispatcher skills book. He's gonna pull one out, and then Greg and I are gonna do what dispatchers do: make up a bunch of stuff and sound smart.
Cool. So I'll just read from it. So we're talking. The topic is characteristics of different aircraft, seating, and mechanical. So this knowledge becomes really important when you want to complete airplane swaps or try to use different resources to fix a problem. For example, if you usually use an A319 into San Diego and your A319 fleets become available, will a 737 be able to go? And if not, how many people would you have to bump? So it's performance, capacity, and mechanical. So know your airplane is a huge one for me. Like systems knowledge is crucial, especially if you're assisting with people as things are happening or understanding the implications of things being broken to how it will affect your operation if the things are on MEL. So that's the book and me
Sounds like
a little
it.
bit.
Sounds like an interview question I've had.
Yeah. Well, interesting that it says real interview tips.
Well, yeah, I would agree. Knowing what kind of airplane can fly into what kind of market is very important. Especially, I could think of an example like when you fly into like New York LaGuardia and certain aircraft you don't want to be flying in there, such as like, oh, for example, a Max that's high speed, shorter runways in LaGuardia. You don't want to be flying those in there. Or even on the West Coast, right? So knowing what your aircraft performance is and what it can do is, yeah, it's an important thing. And knowing the systems are not one of my best, unfortunately, knowledge base, but you always learn something.
I fly in flight sim to keep my skills up
Yeah.
in terms of systems and operations. Like seriously, like yeah, I know it sounds ridiculous, but there's high quality aircraft simulations out there that you can take your manual and follow through, and really like the resolution of what they can do and how they will perform is really it is there for a bunch of airplanes.
Yeah,
Not for
those
all of them.
for a while there, I had the PMDG 737, and man, that was literally sitting there with the checklist, mashing the button, setting up the FMS exactly like you would have to set up the FMS. It really gave me a really good sense of what's actually going on the 737. How do you actually go through and do things and stuff like that? So
Yeah.
um, it's really good. But the whole know your airplane, know the capacity, know the restrictions. Man, that's 100% of the job that I have to do when I get to have the opportunity to work back out on the floor,
Mhm.
swapping airplanes, even within fleets, 900s to 800s on the 7.3 variety. Acme has three different flavors of the narrow body Airbus. You can't throw an A319 and expect to fit an A321 load on it. It doesn't work. It's one's 190 some seats and one's like I think we're like 140 ish. But it's those decision making processes, and then you talk about subbing. Say, oh, our Airbus is broke, so let's go ahead and put a Boeing on it, or usually the other way around. Um, you know, can we make it there? Oh, this is going Denver to Miami. Can I make it back? Can I go that far?
Can you
What
even
about
get out of Denver?
Mhm.
exactly? Especially, can you get out of Denver, or you know, can the airplane make it Seattle to Orlando or back? A lot of that before you make the decision making for me is opening up the flight planning system and making sure we can at least carry everybody if we even think about doing this swap.
Yeah, that
And
what if button's huge, right?
we actually have a tool within our ops management system where literally it is a what if button. And okay, and it allows me to see what happens and what the implications are of the decisions that I'm making. If I move this flight to here, okay, that leaves this uncovered here, and you can get to run the decision all the way through beforehand. And I had that happen a couple of times on my last shift where we had to find I had to downgrade from a 739 down to a 738, and I had to find a city pair to do that matched up with the available airplanes, and thankfully I found some. We were over by like 4 or 5 passengers, but in my mind, hey, that's the no-show factor right there. You know,
Yeah,
we're gonna get everyone on, but you're gonna be a little tighter. Um,
yeah. Well, and crew is a big implication in that as well, right? Like if you're swapping from an Airbus to a Boeing or C series, McDonnell Douglas, whatever. Okay, great. I've got an A319 and I've got a 737 700 of the same capacity. Well, how does that help me if the crew sitting there is only rated to fly Airbus and there's no Boeing guys in that station,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, and
Or
the other thing too is like subfleets within those fleets. Like, okay, I've got an A321 going to Hawaii, like has happened a couple years ago, and then you get halfway across and you realize that's not an ETOPS A321.
whoa,
You know?
whoa.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So yeah, I think that was one of our colleagues from Texas who had to eat dirt on that one. But yeah, it was. Like
Not
it's the same thing. Like keeping track. Do I have APU on demand? Or even speaking of crews, is this crew high limits or not? Right.
right.
Yeah.
And the big thing for us too, if we're swapping between fleets and all that, is do I need extra flight attendants? Am I going to go up from a 800 to a 900? Oh, that's I might need one more flight attendant because now I hit above that magic 50 next 50 seat marker where I still need one.
Yep.
All of
Or
those things are important, and are you learn with experience. And um, you know, okay, oh crud, we don't have any flight attendants here. Oh, let's find some flight attendants for this flight. Then you look at it and go, oh, the pilots aren't there either. All right, I guess we'll have to cancel it. And that was you know that's just you don't want to put your colleagues through a bunch of work. You want to make sure you have all the pieces of the puzzle in place before you actually sit down and try to fix one problem, and you have two other problems that don't work either.
and at
Yeah.
the end of the
Like
day, it's the dispatcher that it comes down to, because when you're there, you pull up the flight, and okay, you assume you have a crew, pilots, flight attendants, that was all set up, and you load everything up in your flight planning system, and from there you hope it'll hopefully tell you, hey, this aircraft is on the wrong market. Like if you fly a certain type of plane there where it's not supposed to go to, hopefully your flight planning system will tell you, that you can't fly this airplane. Because
yeah.
not all the time do the routers and everybody else know that. But ultimately, the dispatcher has to
It's your name on
know,
the flight plan.
right? So,
Yeah. Well, and speaking of performance, it's not just airframe performance you need to understand. It's also engine performance, right? Like if on a 737, would you send a 737 with high stage valve problems up to Yellowknife in the winter? Probably not. But the only reason you know that is because you realize when they come back to idle, you need those bleed valves to open to power the anti-ice system.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're depressurize the airplane if you turn it on. So, and that it's that kind of level of detail that you need to understand. Like high stage valves, what does that even do? And that's stuff you need to keep in mind.
Yeah, and we here at Acme we have a requirement where you have to be a dispatcher for X number of years before you can roll into the ops management side of the house. And it's so you can be there and get that experience and get that understanding, and that the more that you experience you have, the more things that you've seen, the more that you've learned from those situations. And a lot of the times in ops management, we're sitting there, we're fixing problems before the dispatcher even sees the problem. So, so we don't get a phone call, so they don't get a phone call, so everyone is working on the same, trying to do the best that we can and look out for each other, because, in the end of the day, we're all dispatchers. In the end of the day, it's, I might not be the guy signing the release, but I don't want to set someone up for failure. I don't want them to have to be like, dude, I can't take this. My whole theory is if I wouldn't put my name on that airplane going on this flight, then I'm not going to ask someone else to.
Well, and also the sooner you solve the problem, the better, right? Like if you see 8 hours out that this plane can't go somewhere and you can swap it now, it's a lot easier than 20 minutes to departure, right?
Yeah.
Or
That's
whenever somebody
that's
notices it.
a good dispatcher at the beginning of their shift will look at all their flights that they have. Like on a given day, I might have 30 flights I might need to release. I'll look at all my flights throughout the entire shift and look at each and every MEL that every aircraft has. And if I see something, hey, maybe 6 hours from now, hey, it's got a an anti-ice cowl in op or something where it's a no icing penalty, I'm going to call my operating manager and say, hey, you know what? This thing doesn't leave for 7 hours, but you need to fix this. And, just so, it gives them more time to either fix it or swap the airplane, go somewhere else where, there may not be any icing if that's the case. But that's proactiveness, right? And knowing your options ahead of time,
And it also comes down to like a risk tolerance, right? Like, so say for example, a plane's gone into maintenance and they're going to look at getting the EPU fixed. The next flight is to Hawaii, on a 737. Okay, maybe we should just swap it now because what if they don't fix it, right? Like, you don't want to wait for maintenance to hand the plane back over and go, yeah, we couldn't get it fixed in time. We couldn't.
Right.
Troubleshooting took too long, right? So there's some of those ones where it's like, it's worth swapping now, even if they do fix it. I'd rather have it be on a plane that I know works versus one that I'm hoping that they can get it done in time, because airplanes are complex beasts and mechanics are wonderful people and do great jobs, but sometimes things just don't line up, or even worse, there's no part, right? You got to order one.
Or what they thought was broke wasn't actually broke, but it was really the other thingamabig that they needed to have, and we don't have one there. But that gets to the point too where it's the weird thing about the aviation industry is airlines will borrow parts from each other all the time. There might be some cost involved. Sure, you can have our thingamajig. That's going to be $17,000.
Yeah.
But you know what? We'll pay for it because it keeps our operation running. And we know we're going to do the exact same thing to you, the next time you need a thingamabob.
Yeah, one of the things I really appreciate about how they run maintenance up at Acme Canada is they'll put in a note when things have a history. And I don't know if you do this too, but like things will have a history. Like, there's a history of the HF radio cracking out on this aircraft, but it's working now and we can't find the fault. So they record these things and they come up in our MEL when we're looking for MELs, and actually come up on the flight plan for the crews to be aware of as well, in case they don't flip back far enough in the logbook. So, even getting stuff like that, like if the HF radio doesn't work, inevitably it's going to break in Hawaii, right? APU is having problems, inevitably it's going to break in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, so there's, like, unless you really need that plane to go to Hawaii for some reason, maybe just don't. You've got other options. Make it happen, right? So yeah, those are one of the things, like Greg was saying. If you look far enough ahead, then you can catch those in time before it's critical. Now it's like, oh yeah, well, the plane I could have swapped it with just went off to Vegas. Sorry.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
Just being proactive can really make your day much better for everybody.
Yeah,
Yep.
Take advantage of your fan flights to ask systems questions.
Yeah. Oh, I have. Yeah, those are good opportunities to learn stuff. I've been on flights where we have a mechanical problem, and I've learned a lot just by sitting and observing and listening.
That's why I like going to the sim, doing the fan flights in the sim.
Yeah.
Because that's where you see everything break, and it's kind of you put yourself in that situation. And you understand what's going on the other side. So,
in fact, I might be doing that this year for my qualification ride. It's in September this year, so one of the options is to fly out to Colorado and sit in our simulators. So
go to the training center. Thankfully, our simulators are just downstairs. We get occasional light turbulence in our building anytime there's anything shaking downstairs in the sims. The first couple of times of being in our office, like, what's that shaking? Was that an earthquake? No, it was a simulator. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't really allow that sim to count as your fam ride in Canada, at least not as far as I'm aware. Maybe they've changed it since I've been gone. But we did get a chance to go through and do it once. Obviously it can be stressful for the pilots, right? Like they're doing their ride. The last thing they need is somebody else looking over their shoulder sometimes, right? So I definitely appreciated getting the chance to do that. I'm hopeful this year that if things work out, I'll get to fam over to Amsterdam later. That would be nice and visit some of the family. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I miss international travel. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
we figured out the hard way that that my TSA pre-check expired in 2020, and my wife's TSA pre-check expired in 2020, and so I need to get another interview. Which, speaking of, I need to schedule my interview, and Mama needs to pony up some money too, because traveling is a lot easier with pre-check and global entry.
Yep. Yeah, I get it through Nexus. Fantastic. Because Nexus gives me Canada, US, and pre-check. Hang on. It's fantastic. Try and get it for Aida once she becomes a Canadian citizen. Yeah, so and that's the I just have to say, like, I'm going to be grateful that I'm getting to fam anywhere this year. So, I mean, even if it's just up the road, just, you know, an hour-long flight up the road, I'll be happy to be riding the flight deck again. So.
Yeah, no, I actually agree. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap up the show. Joe, thanks for buying the book and opening up and getting us another great topic to talk about. That worked out great. You can find show notes for this episode at flyinlife.com/2021/68. You can find us on Twitter, Flying in Life, Facebook.com, Flying in Life. Pretty sure we still have an Instagram. It's under the handle Flying in Life. And yeah. Greg, Joe, are you being social?
I'm always
Just
social.
my Six Cats Press Sage.
Six Cats Press on Facebook. As you can see if you're watching the video, there's 6 cats back there.
Yeah, there are. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, my wife actually made our logo. My wife made my logo. It is cartoon versions of all of the cats. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Greg,
yeah,
what about you?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. I'm there somewhere, somehow. Don't rely on me to respond right away necessarily, but I'm on there.
Awesome. So, alrighty, well that's gonna wrap it up for the show. We absolutely promise it will not be 6 more months before our next episode. And
at the worst, it could be a month, which is Oshkosh, but it'll be before then.
No, it'll definitely be before then. I want to get back to a twice per month interval, and I think that's doable. So I'm gonna come over here to this screen, and I'm gonna hit this button right there, and that'll take us out. So wrapping up 68. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.